Welcome back, everyone, to the Brain It On podcast. I'm so excited for today's episode because I have a very special guest sitting right here with me. I have my mom, Melinda Brown. So, Mom, thank you for joining us. And before we dive in, can you take a moment to say hello and let our listeners know a little bit about who you are?
Yes, thank you, Lindsay. It's great to be here. My name is Melinda Brown, and I live in Vero Beach, Florida, with my husband, Brian. My mother also lives in Vero Beach, and I love to teach second grade. I have the honor to teach second graders at Rosewood Magnet Elementary School. It's hard for me to believe. I've been teaching for over 30 years.
That's amazing. And fun fact is that you were actually my first grade teacher. Most of our listeners probably don't know that. And it was so fun having you as my teacher. And did you say that when you were gone and you'd have a substitute teacher, I would come home and tell you exactly what happened? So you knew really what was going on.
Yeah, I did. And you were a sensitive person ever since you were little. You felt the feelings of others. Mm-hmm. And so if somebody else got in trouble, it was as if you got in trouble. I thought that was a really cool thing. And also that was also a burden to carry.
Definitely. Man, every time Johnny got chewed out by the PE teacher, I must have felt that. And the funny thing is that I wasn't sure if I should call you Mrs. Brown or Mom.
I think you really wanted to call me Mrs. Brown. You wanted to be like the other kids.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But then I was Mom, so.
I like it. Well, how do you feel about this episode?
Mom.
Melinda, Mom? Okay, good. Yeah. Let's stick with Mom.
Let's be more natural.
I like that. Mom, we are so loving having you here. You've been here for about a month, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So about a month ago, Thomas, who's not recording with us today, but he had a pretty big health scare, which involved him being at the hospital at St. Charles, then being transferred by ambulance to OHSU. And in a future episode, Thomas and I will sit down and we'll share kind of the big health highlight. But he's doing a lot better now. He's stabilized. We're home. We're in a fancy new studio, a studio that we purchased, with all of our assets. No, not really. This is the library, Ben Public Library, it's pretty fancy. Are you liking it?
The Central Library.
Central Library. So check it out. So we're here in this studio recording at the library, and it's really fun to talk with you and to dive into the topic. It's been a process, right? All for the last 4 weeks, we've been trying to figure out what are we going to talk about? And so we kind of had three major themes that kept emerging in our conversations, in the books we were reading, and then we got a literal sign in the middle of TJ Maxx. Can you tell them about the sign that we got?
So the first thing we did when we got a little bit of time is we went shopping, of course. What else do we like to do? And so I have a coffee mug collection, and so there's a maker called Ray Dunn. She has a special kind of mug. And so there was one that it says, "Faith can move mountains." And I thought, oh, that resonates with me. I really want this mug. And then I thought, do I really need this mug? So I didn't do it. I thought, okay, well, I'll come back later and get it. They had like 3 of them. Of course, the next day I go back, they're all gone. And I wanted that one, no other mug. And so it was just kind of this funny process that in between Thomas's heaviness, and we would get a little bit of a sunshine break just to kind of not think about that part.
Right. A pocket of joy.
A little pocket of joy. And so, long story short, about some silly coffee mug, we go in one day and Lindsay says, "Mom, look no further. I found it."
Oh, yeah. And I felt really proud of that.
Yes, she finally found the Ray Dunn mug. This was not a Ray Dunn mug. But
it's not some off-brand.
Off-brand, beautiful, really big, so I can put all my creamer and honey and vanilla. It said faith, hope, and love. And it made me cry when I looked at her, and she's like, we looked, our eyes connected, and we're like, this is way more than just a coffee mug. This is like how we start our day. We get that coffee in our hand, and we're just praying to the Lord, and we're asking for wisdom and guidance and hope. And so I thought, yep, that's it. That's what we're going to talk about on your podcast.
And we bought it on the spot. We did not think about it and come back later. We knew this is the mug. This is happening.
But
awesome.
You know what's cool about it? It does have butterflies on it. And that is the process for me of transformation.
Wow.
Because I teach second grade. It's just, you know what? Once you become an adult, once you stop really being in awe about what's around you, You mean to tell me this little teeny caterpillar is going to turn into a butterfly and the chrysalis, the whole thing? I think that is representative of the life of a Christian, how we are supposed to transform by the renewing of our minds. And so we actually become new. That sounds like that's another podcast.
It definitely could be. Thomas and I were listening to a podcast episode from Stuff You Should Know, and they have one about caterpillars and one about butterflies. And it's amazing, that transformation piece, and how literally the caterpillar takes all the parts that it's itself, and then it makes wings, and, it just kind of resorts the cells. And I believe that to be true as it pertains to faith, how we're constantly evolving and we're changing and kind of unlearning and then relearning things that we believe, values that we hold. And I think it's also this transformation when you go through cancer treatment, your priorities are transforming, right? So maybe you had priorities of wanting to meet certain career goals, or you wanted to, have a certain house, even goals of, I want to become a parent, like Thomas and I were engaging in that process. We haven't told our listeners yet, but we were in the process of becoming certified to adopt a baby, an infant adoption. And so this transformation piece, sometimes it looks like our thoughts, patterns, our beliefs, our goals. And I think that changes each season of life you're in. And it's like, okay, I'm going to pivot. Our cousin's wife, Shelby, she said, you guys are pivoters. Like, remember that in the hospital? She's like, you guys just pivot. And I think that is so important when you're going through treatment and medical adversity to say, okay, this was my goal. And this isn't the season for it. Not yet. Do you mind if I transition to the science, the nerding out? So let's go back a little bit.
Circle back.
We'll circle back. So I do want to say that faith, hope, and love, they aren't just cute words on a cute coffee mug. They're actually super important, not just personally for us, but also they're backed by clinical research. So there's something called the Biopsychosocial-Spiritual Model.
Can you say that again?
Can I say it 3 times fast? It's called the Biopsychosocial-Spiritual Model.
Wow.
And this is the gold standard for trauma psychology. A couple researchers, Dr. Southwick and Dr. Charney, both from Yale and then Mount Sinai, they studied prisoners of war and medical trauma survivors. And what they found from those studies is there are really 4 pillars of resilience that they found in these people who had been through such horrible, adverse experiences. So the 4 pillars of resilience are, number 1, biological, your nervous system. Think deep breathing, right? All the healthy choices like going on a run, time in nature, social connection. So you can develop resilience by having your biological needs met.
Perfect.
Number 2, psychological. So that's your cognitive reframing. You're being intentional about how you are making sense of your experience in this trauma. Number 3 is social. Do you have a safe tribe? The quality of your relationships, your social capital. And then number 4 is spiritual or existential, which includes meaning, purpose, and for some people, faith. And so this is what has emerged from the data of what helps people recover from being in a prisoner of war, from really intense trauma. Wow. And those are the 4 pillars that have emerged. And so we're sharing this today because research proves that a deeply held faith and a framework for meaning making is one of the strongest protective factors. It's one of those pillars that you can have when your world turns upside down. And so we're deviating from, typically on this podcast, we talk about biological, psychological, and social. And so having you here on the podcast today is an opportunity for us to have a conversation about that 4th pillar, because to be our authentic selves, to let you in on what it looks like that when my mom and I are together, we're going to stores and we're talking about faith and things that matter to us in that way. And so that's kind of the framework for what our conversation is going to look like today.
What I think is especially important?
What's that?
It's intentional.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you don't bring a level of intentionality to the trial you're going through, you can start to see the hole in the donut.
Oh, yes.
So this is something that my counselor has shared with me. I love this analogy. So if you think about a donut, you have the hole in the middle, right? Not donut holes, but you look at a big donut, there's the hole in the middle, that's missing dough. And then you have the entirety of the donut, right? So you can either focus on the donut hole, right? What's missing, or you can focus on the whole donut. Look what's there. So in our season of life, this intentionality, we could zoom in and say, oh, what's missing is a child, Or what's missing is that we were on this path to parenthood and now there's been a diversion and we could focus on the heaviness or the grief of that. And of course we hold space. We're not brushing over that and toxic positivity, but we're saying we feel these feelings where there's heaviness and we're going to zoom out and say, but look at the whole donut. Look what is there. We have all kinds of wonderful, delicious toppings on our big donut. Beautiful blessings is kind of the analogy there. There's so many good things in our life. And so I think it's normal to transform your mind, transform your perspective. And a lot of that comes down to choosing gratitude, right? Not being bitter, right? It's a shifting of, oh, I'm frustrated. And who can I help in this situation?
I want to circle back to that coffee mug, the faith, the hope, the love. I love Thomas's desire to give hope, to bring hope to others. Thomas is an example of living out that life. God didn't just heal him immediately.
Oh, yeah. We're on year 2.
Yeah. And so people around them who know them, their neighbors, people at the hospital, at Thomas's work, at Lindsay's work, they say, how are you doing this? You know, how are you facing this challenge? You guys are facing Mount Everest, really. And it's through your faith.
Yes, we were in the backyard talking with a couple of family members visiting from out of town. And yeah, they were like, how is it that y'all are writing a book? So we published a book. We're just like dropping all these, life updates. I'm like, okay, Thomas, I'm going to record with Mom. I won't share any big news. We wrote a book. So it's called The Comfort and Healing Companion. It is a book that Thomas and I wrote together that teaches people how to navigate adversity, how to have hope in the face of medical challenges and a cancer diagnosis. And so I think what it comes down to is giving people hope that even though they're going to go through something really hard, probably the hardest thing, that there are ways to transform, see the whole donut, and to see the love of people around you, and to focus on what matters, right? Because I think what happens with cancer and serious illness, and Thomas's mom, she, was in hospice and she passed away and she's in heaven now. And I think the thing that is really amazing when you are faced with your own mortality is you get really clear on what's important and what's not important. And there's, capital, right? Like how much money do you have in your house and all your assets and sustainability. But then what really matters, like this is going to be heavy, but when I think back to Julie's last moments on earth, what mattered was her social capital. It was the people that she loved that were surrounding her bed, even when she was at a point where, she wasn't verbally responding, but the hospice worker let us know that usually sound is the last of your senses to go, and so that she could still hear us. And so I went on and I called you and Dad, and I called, her brother, and I put people on speakerphone. So if you have someone in hospice, you can make phone calls, and you guys were talking to her, and she was smiling, and it was really beautiful. That connection was still being made. But basically, when you strip everything away, what are you anchoring yourself to? And for us, that is our faith in God, and the gratitude that Jesus came to this earth and wanted a relationship with us, and we still have access to that. We're going to talk about Bob Goff here in a moment. And he says in his books, he's so funny, and I like how he words things, but he says, heaven's nuts about you. And like, Jesus loves you so much, no matter what. It's this ridiculous love. It doesn't make any sense that no matter what you've done, wherever you're at in your life, that you are loved unconditionally. And so I think that is such an anchor for us. Anytime that we love other people, it's a reflection. What does it say in the Bible? We love because he first loved us.
Yes.
Right. Next up, let's talk about Bob Goff and actionable faith. Bob Goff is an amazing author. He's a humanitarian. He has an organization called Love Does, and he builds schools in conflict zones. So he practices what he preaches. He's also a really fun author. So if you're looking for a new book, Dream Big or Undistracted are really good ones that we've kind of been looking at. And again, faith, hope, and love were themes that emerged. And he has a couple quotes that stood out to us. The first one is, if ambitions had 2 handles, they would be love and hope. Just how important those things are. And then he also talks about how faith is an action. And so as he says, faith is what you do about what you believe. So it's not just your meaning, your purpose, your values, but then what do you do about those? And I think that's a distinction that he makes that's really important, to have that authentic faith that changes things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was talking about how Jesus was a model for us. And so he spoke with people. He forgave people. He showed them what it's like to understand truth. It's amazing because the God of the universe invites us to participate with him and what he's doing on earth. He wants us to go and to heal and to speak truth and to forgive and to live a humble life. And so what does that look like? It was loving people who are difficult to love. Choosing faith when the numbers you just got back from the hospital look bad.
We've had that a few times.
Offering hope to people who are hopeless. Jesus spoke to the people in the margins, the people who were marginalized. He went to them.
Right. I think some people have this concept of religion because it plays out this way in certain churches, right? Yeah. They have this concept that it's inaccessible, right? Like you have to behave in all these ways. And yet when we think about where did Jesus go? Who is he spending time with? The religious leaders at the time, they were looking at him like, what are you doing, right? It was so countercultural that he was being with people in the margins, people who were prostitutes, tax collectors, people who were not making good choices. And he spent his time there, right?
He went to women. He went to children. And culturally at that time, it's hard for people in today's times to recognize what it was like 2,000 years ago. A very, very, very different world. And
Definitely.
so sometimes it's important to come at any literature that you're reading from the time and place that it was written and for whom it was written. And then we can draw out what are the applications. But to not have an unintended consequence of, oh, well, this is what he said and this is what he did. Actually, he was revolutionary. And that kind of upset the apple cart with a lot of people in his time. And he was not saying things that they wanted to hear. And so we know how that ended for Jesus. And so what a sacrifice that he did for us. So
everybody always. That's, I think, the title of one of Bob Goff's books is to love everyone always. If they're grumpy at you, if they've said or done things that really are not in alignment with what you would certainly hope for in your life. Yeah. And there's a balance, of course, of having boundaries and not being in a context where it's unsafe. But in general, when it's appropriate, loving people.
Well, I got to see Bob Goff speak at Westside Church
many
years ago, and he is such an entertainer. But he was talking about love does, and love is a noun, and love is a verb.
Right.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing to love. And, you know, when you look at that saying, faith, hope, and love, it's from 1 Corinthians, I believe, 13:13.
Yes.
If you look at 1 Corinthians 1 through 12, the things leading up to that exact statement, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of this is love. It's another thing our culture sometimes doesn't truly understand the depth of what it means. Agape love, which is a sacrificial love. It's not, what am I getting out of this? It's like, what can I do for you? Because I love you so much. And that's what I see you do with Thomas. And that's what I see Thomas do with you. And so I think people who are watching your journey as you go through cancer, they're seeing what love looks like and what hope looks like and what faith looks like.
What do you put your hope in? As you mentioned, when you get bad numbers or hard numbers, I think some people would think, oh, well, faith is that I'm going to beat this. And I ultimately think it's beautiful when Thomas says, my faith is that no matter what I go through, God is with me. He loves me. And one day I will be in heaven with my mom. And if I go to heaven a lot sooner than any of us want, the most important thing is that I'm loved by the God of the universe. And what a blessing to have your love, Lindsay. We watched The Chosen. It's one of our favorite shows. And there's a scene where they're saying it would have been enough. And in the portrayal of the show, they show Jesus with the women and they were having this meal together. And they were saying, if God had done this thing in my life, that would have been enough. And so Thomas had said, you know, if I were married to you
You're making me cry.
if God had brought you into my life and we were married just for 1 year, and then if I went home to be with Jesus after that, that would have been enough. And so we've had 12 years together, 10 years married. We celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think, where is your hope?
Yeah.
Right? What is the basis for that? I think just you take every day, you have gratitude for every day because we don't know how much time we have left, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. We're all terminal. We're all going to pass on from this earth. It's not a fun thing to say at parties. You're not going to get invited to a lot of them if you bring that up a lot. But I think recognizing the preciousness of every day, leave nothing important unsaid, and love everyone around you always, even when it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
So we're going to bring it home. And
we're going to land the plane.
We're going to land the plane. I'm looking at the clock, and we actually are having kind of like a family gathering in honor of Julie. And it's kind of like a part one. So it's like a family picnic and gathering to honor her. And so that's what we're going to be doing here soon. We're going to pack up all of our equipment from the library and go and do that together. But before we close our time, let's go through kind of what it looks like practically during Thomas's leukemia battle and transplant and kind of break it down. So let's start with faith. Kind of what does that look like for you coming alongside of us and seeing that?
Well, I think the concept of faith, the way our society views it, is kind of an optimism to have faith in yourself or have faith, kind of like trust, synonymous with trust. I think from a biblical perspective, it's putting your faith in God. My faith is in God, and that's because I've lived out my life. I've seen him show up in many, many ways.
And you can't see the wind, but you can feel it.
So that's a good one.
You can feel God's presence. I like that. Okay, next is hope. What does hope look like to you?
You don't need hope if everything's around you wonderful and rosy.
Right.
You need hope when there's a darkness and despair, that understanding that things are going to get better. So it could be synonymous with an optimism in the face of darkness when it's connected to spiritual, which is probably going back to the 4 pillars. So
the 4th pillar,
these people
resilience.
who were prisoners of war, that's some sort of darkness.
Yes.
The ones who did the best had hope. And so those are the ones who truly, truly understand that this is not my home. This is not forever right now. And what I'm going through, there is a plan and a purpose and a creator. And I can put my hope in that. I don't have to look at my circumstances and think that is the end. I can have hope that things are going to plan out. And I might not get the answer on this side of heaven.
That's a big one. I love that. And a lot of people will say, like, why is this happening to you? Why, you and Thomas are kind people. And I think one of the things I say is like, I have a lot of questions. I think philosophers have had questions for a lot of years on this earth. And I truly don't know. But what I do know is that I'll be able to learn that on the other side of heaven, right?
So it's ironic. We're going to go and talk about Julie today and have a picnic and be together with family. And I have such hope I'm going to see her again. I have no doubt. Of course, I miss her, of course. Yeah. But I have hope I'm going to see her and be with her again in a robust way.
Yes. And as it pertains to circling back to when people say, why is this happening to you guys? And 2-part approach. First is I have questions and I know I won't get the answers to those most likely. And I know that God can work all things together for good, right? In our opinion, it's not because God's making these things happen to us. The way that we kind of see it is that these horrible things are happening in our lives with his health. Yeah. And God can work these things together for good.
And Jesus was an example.
Right. Yes.
His suffering, his betrayal.
Yes.
And he still said, as he's on the cross, he's saying, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Right.
And so
when I get upset,
the suffering servant, he understands our hurts.
Yes.
He understands.
Every day we get to love each other. And every day we get to see beauty in the people around us. I'm thinking about my brother Tommy and his wife Amanda. And when Thomas was inpatient 4 weeks ago, the love they showed us by Tommy would bring me coffee and, oatmeal. And Amanda and Tommy would have me over to their house after a long day at the hospital. And they would just fuel me with healthy food. And Amanda taught me how to go on my chart and like see what all the doctors are writing and like their notes that they sign off on, kind of like, stalking
Thanks,
what they're saying. Like, okay, so this is what you think's happening. And that really helped me when I was in Portland at OHSU, being able to see, oh, these are the providers' notes. And this is how they're signing off on what they think is really happening. And then I think about the infusion nurses who every time Thomas and I come back after it's been a little while and he's maybe had a decline, like, he rolled in 2 weeks ago to the cancer center with a walker. And I could see in some nurses' eyes just,
well, you were training for a half marathon.
We were training for a Disney World half marathon in January. And so I think they love us and we get to see that. It's a beautiful, it's a hopeful thing that even when things are hard, there are medical providers, family members, neighbors that are showing up and just demonstrating so much love and how hopeful that we can look for the goodness even in dark times. And so I think that's really, really beautiful. And just as we told people, Thomas had this setback, and then nurses or Thomas's, provider that we've seen the last couple of weeks is like, you can do this. You're going to get through this.
What did that pharmacist tell you?
Yeah, that was really neat. The clinical pharmacist up at OHSU.
Have you shared this before?
I might have. I know we talked about it at the Subaru Cares event, but I can't remember if we said it on the podcast or not.
This is really cool.
Yeah. So that one of the pharmacist said that he was listening to one of our episodes on the way to work, as he was in his car. And he just said, I was listening to your episode and the love that you and Thomas share is stronger than any drug I can give him. And you have each other and he's going to be okay. And the power of your love, which brings us to the third one, love. There's so much power there.
Yeah.
Do you want to share anything about that?
God shows us what love looks like. And he sent us Jesus as an example of what love should look like, and forgive. And love is patient, love is kind. Every day I get another chance. I get another chance to love like he wants me to love. And so, like I teach second grade. I love my students so much. And I love their families. And I look forward to the job I get to do. So, yeah, it's just been an honor to be on today, Lindsay. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here on the podcast with us. Thank you for driving to Safeway 127 times to get us Premier Protein banana milkshakes. You have shown us your love by serving. And speaking of second grade, you missed the last few days of school. Like on a dime, you heard that Thomas was hospitalized. He was in critical condition, and you stopped everything. And you got on a plane and you were here. And that is a sacrificial love. That is so meaningful and necessary.
And my administrators showed me love by saying, we will support you. You go and support family. And, I guess that love makes the world go round. I mean, that's what it's all about. So
I love it.
Thank you, Lindsay.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this episode of the Brain It On podcast. We hope that you're able to see the whole donut, see all the beauty, all the goodness in your life, acknowledge the whole, acknowledge what's missing, hold space for that grief, and then look for love. Look for the beautiful acts of kindness of people around you. Be open to transforming your mind, your perspectives, and have hope. Have hope that there are people who can support you. Maybe if it resonates with you, hope in faith or God or something greater, and just knowing that you're not alone.
When Thomas spoke at the Subaru Cares event, there were chalk drawings all over the floor so that people, as they walked up to receive their treatment, they had really beautiful things to look at, messages and hearts and smiley faces. And one of the big things I remember, it said, you are not alone. And it was just so beautiful that there are so many people out there who care.
Yes.
And you're not alone.
Yes. And reach out for help. Yeah, definitely. I had this last thought. I want you to imagine that you're holding a piece of chalk. And with this chalk, you can either put it in your pocket, or you can use that chalk and you can look at the ground and you can think about, what message do I want to leave for people? You are loved. You can do this, right? So I think it just kind of makes you think about what influence you have. I mean, and that showing someone love with your chalk, it could be a heart or a smiley face. You're smiling at people. We have to wear masks in stores to keep Thomas safe, but you can smile with your eyes, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I do my big eyebrows when I'm trying to smile at someone, but think about the influence you're having on others, because truly the way that we interact is powerful. And you could say something that would stick with someone. You didn't realize that it was actually a powerful moment, but you could speak a word of encouragement. You could write some beautiful message in chalk, so to speak, and it could stick with someone. So it just goes to show you, you have power. Your words have power. And every day, you're like you were saying, it's a new day, and we can choose to live our lives with love, to give hope to other people. And that gives me a lot of faith. I was trying to work all the words in. I don't know if it worked, but there it is.
This has been a lot of fun.
This has. Finally, I'm going to land the plane. Take 2. Thank you for listening to this episode. We hope you have a great week, and we will talk with you soon.